will go ahead and call the meeting to order. I'm LaDawn Sperling. I am the Vice Chair of the Colorado Housing Board, and I'm filling in for Anthea Martin today. We will start with the approval of the July 2023 meeting votes. Do I have a motion to approve those?
Madam Vice Chair, I'd make the motion to approve the meeting votes for July 23.
Thank you, Candace. Do we have a second?
So moved.
Is that Monique seconding?
This is Ryan Moses, second.
Ryan? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. And now turning it over to Allison George for the director comments. It looked like she logged in just a minute ago.
Maybe exactly a minute ago. And so thank you so much, LaDawn. And thank you today for coming to our engagement session with Housing Colorado and CHFA. So, and Nancy, thank you very much. Wonderful to have representation from our State Housing Board at these engagement sessions so you can hear what is happening in our communities, what the needs are as we're moving things forward. So really appreciated the perspective and ears that you brought to the engagement in particular. So thank you. So I have exciting news and an introduction to make today. I would like to introduce our brand new second day in operations director. So Bridget Clausen Broughton joined us yesterday. And so I wanted to introduce her. Bridget, put you on the spot if you don't mind. But I already put her on the spot once today during the engagement session already. But she comes to us from CDHS, where she was their director of strategic partnerships. Bridget, phone a friend. What was your title there? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Can you hear me now? Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay,
now we hear you.
Thank you. I just pulled in and ran upstairs as quickly as I could. So thank you all for having me. I really appreciate it. I just came from the Department of Human Services. I had been there for 7.5 years for the state. And my last role was I started the Division of Strategic Project Management. So we oversaw all of the programmatic projects that were really important, as well as change management, process improvement, and portfolio management. So I'm excited to be here and join the team. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Bridget. We're really excited to have you and as well, and have heard from many of the folks that you have met already that they're very enthusiastic about the energy that you're bringing, especially as we're all coming back from our COVID days. And so having some fresh energy as we're undergoing and taking on these challenges is really, I think, important. And we're all very enthusiastic to have that with us. So thank you. So as a part of the discussion today with Housing Colorado, I think we probably had close to 200 people at the session. It was packed. So much so, and I think I mentioned this last time, that Housing Colorado is actually having a web version for the presentation. And so that will be coming up, I believe it's next week. I might need to phone a friend. It's either next week or the following week. Andrew, I think you put that information in last time, which I think was helpful, so that folks have that, they can register. Housing Colorado already has over 200 people signed up for that virtual option. So the demand is high, and one of the big hot topics is actually Proposition 123. I don't think that's a terribly big surprise. So far, of the 336 eligible local jurisdictions to sign up and opt in to Proposition 123, we have accepted 33 commitments. Thank you, Andrew. I really appreciate that. So there are the details for Housing Colorado's virtual option. And it is Monday, August 21st. Look at all of you. Really appreciate all of us coming together for that. Thank you. So that's about 10% approval so far of folks that have opted in. We are shooting for 25%, with the majority being some of those largest jurisdictions, because if we can get that, then we also will have over 80% of Colorado's population represented within the opting in for Proposition 123. So very excited for that. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions that you have, or any feedback on the engagement sessions as well.
Does anyone have any questions for Allison?
I'll just say that I thought the engagement session was really interesting, and I think everybody was engaged and listening, and a ton of information, ton of it. So thank you all to everybody who helped put that together. So thank you.
I
Absolutely.
agree. It
Definitely.
was a really great session. You guys did a great job of putting everything together.
Oh, thank you. There's so much, so we tried to focus on looking forward for the actual presentations. And then we have that rolling slide deck that we put in that folks can take a look at during the different time that they have to walk around and provide information in the focus groups. And we'll put all of that on our website so that people can more slowly digest some of the information that was provided, because there was quite a bit. Well, thank you.
Okay, we will move on to the project application review. So our first project is the reserves at Eagle Point, and the presenter is Demetra English. We'll introduce our presenters.
Hello, today we have presenting Caroline Hurst, Ryan Zint, and Adam Morgan.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having us. This is Ryan Zent with Overland Property Group. Demetra, is it mine to kick off, or you go first? Excellent.
It's all you. Okay.
Awesome. Well, excited to be here to present the reserves at Eagle Point, which is an exciting 192 unit affordable housing community in kind of the northeastern portion of Aurora at Stephen D. Hogan and Piccadilly. This is a really exciting area. It's rapidly expanding in terms of a substantial number of single family homes, as well as multifamily units on the luxury end at this end of the 470 corridor. As I mentioned, 192 units on about 7.5 acres. But the property is actually part of a larger mixed use development in which there'll be a lot of commercial options that have already been committed as part of the Eagle Point master plan. So the reserves at Eagle Point is a income averaging community that has 10% of the units at 30% or below, ranging all the way up to 80% AMI units, with the majority of the units and the average income falling in that 58% AMI band. As I mentioned, this is really a once in a lifetime opportunity. It is a completely greenfield site located out in Aurora. The property has been committed low income housing tax credits, both federal and state, in round 2 of last year. And as well as local funding from the city of Aurora through their community investment financing round. And beyond that, I mean, Adam, if you have anything to add, otherwise we're happy to answer any questions. But this is an exciting project with a team that has proven and just completed a project very similar in nature in Green Valley Ranch, which was also supported by DOLA, and we very much appreciate all of your support.
Well said. Yep.
Do we have any questions? Okay. It looks like we do not have any questions on this one. So we'll move on to the next one, which is Westside Mobile Home Park. And Shirley Diaz will introduce the presenters. I'll turn it over to you, Shirley.
Thank you. Good afternoon. We have with us today from Elevation Community Land Trust, Stefka Fanchi and Robin Hickey.
Thank you all very much for having us today. I'm Steph Getfanchi. I'm the CEO at Elevation Community Land Trust. You may not be familiar with this project. It's the first time it's coming to State Housing Board, but we have been pretty immersed in this project for the last 12 months. So Elevation Community Land Trust was invited by the Co-op of Residents at Westside Mobile Home Park in Durango, Colorado. It's actually at this moment in La Plata County, an unincorporated La Plata County, and we are working on an annexation into the city. The large goal for this project is to redevelop the 74 existing units plus the 12 units at the adjacent Triangle Mobile Home Park into homes on permanent foundations that can be purchased by the existing residents so that they can have access not only to a safe and decent place to live, but also all of the opportunities that home ownership brings. And these will be permanently affordable. So the idea here is that we will redevelop this into over 100 new units. So we will be expanding the number of units that are available in the community. This request is actually for basically to buy us some time. We did not receive transformational housing funding, and this will give us the opportunity to pay off our bank loans. There's a really long but great story behind how we were able to acquire Westside Mobile Home Park. It was quite the battle with the the corporation that was trying to purchase this park. We came in alongside the co-op. They were not able to get ROC funding, and they requested that we come in to purchase the park in cooperation with them, which we did after 2 tries. And now we're sharing the management of the park with the co-op board there. So this request is for $4 million to assist us in taking out our loans so that we can have some time that we don't have to pay that heavy interest burden, and that we can really do all the due diligence and the work that we're doing alongside the residents and bring them into the process of planning and designing their new community. So this will really enable us to use that time to do a lot of community engagement and work, getting them ready for homeownership and bringing them into the design process as well. Robin, would you like to talk a little bit about the financing?
Absolutely. And I would also add the other thing that we'll be doing during the term of the loan is, as Stefka mentioned, annexing into the city. And one of the really great things about that process will be improving the fire safety in the park. So getting the residents access to city services, including fire protection, adding a new fire hydrant. And so really, we've done a lot of work over the course of the past year, improving the health, safety, and welfare of the park. And this loan will enable us to continue that work through the city annexation process. So we're very excited about that as well. On the financing side, as Stefka mentioned, we currently have a loan with First Southwest Bank for just over $4 million that matures in June of 2024. And so this will enable us to pay off that loan and again, have time to complete the necessary community engagement process.
I would like to add one last thing, which is that since the time that we purchased the park, we've been able to reduce the monthly housing burden for all residents between our commitment to zero displacement and also zero rent increases. We've also revamped the way that utilities are being billed, which has resulted in a net decrease in the housing payment for all residents.
Fantastic. Do we have any questions on Westside Mobile Home Park? Sam.
Thank you, LaDon. Sorry, I was a little late joining the party. I was having some technical difficulties on my end getting on the web. Just had one question for Stefka or Robin. it sounds like really a great project, and sounds like a lot of work and thought has gone into it already. Do you anticipate coming back to the division for some future funding once you start actually building some of the modulars and getting them on site and then selling them to the residents?
I'm going to be honest with you, Sam, we need all the money. So yes, we do anticipate doing that. This is one element of financing. There will be substantial subsidies required here. As you just mentioned, we do plan to use modular construction here. We're going to be doing a blend of permanently affordable rental and homeownership. So we're looking at probably coming back for multiple different ways here. We've also already been successful in raising significant funds from private sources and have talked with the city, the county, and CHAFA about other ways that we can bring additional funding sources here to the table.
Do you have a sense of what those dollars might look like from, especially from the division side in terms of what you might be looking at over the future couple of years?
Yeah, so Robin, if you would jump in here to help me out, we had put together a transformational housing grant application. We were asking for that full amount of $10 million there. The subsidy per unit on these, which is not necessarily what we would be asking the Division of Housing for, I believe is approximate. Like, Robin, you want to jump in? I feel like it's almost.
It's close to $200,000 a unit, which is honestly what we're seeing for homeownership opportunities across across rural Colorado. It is maybe slightly higher than what we're seeing in other communities, but pretty on par.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Nancy.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I thought it was really creative in the sense that every area has unique needs, and excuse me, I went down the wrong way. Has unique needs, and I thought that this was really interesting, including getting this into the city. So that they could have more services. So I don't know. I just think it's one of the reasons that we're doing what we do is to help support projects like this. So carry on.
Thank you. And we would love to have all of you come visit the park with us sometime, because it really is an amazing project. And what makes it so great are the people that live there who are doing so much of the work.
Any other questions?
No, other than, I think we'd love to come visit you.
Okay, so we will move on then to Pikes Peak Real Estate Foundation, and Andrew Paredes will do this introduction.
Thanks, LaDawn. So these are a few more of the Affordable Housing Investment Fund 2023 or AHIF 23 applications. So by way of reminder, this was a NOFA that we issued where the division is providing capital that came from Senate Bill 22-159 to community lenders who are then using this capital to lend the money out into their communities for the production and or preservation of affordable housing opportunities. These are indeed intended to be loans. So we are providing capital to groups who will then lend this out based on their own kind of underwriting criteria and guidelines to affordable housing developers in their communities to help ease the cost burden on these projects. So the first one that I'm happy to present is from the Pikes Peak Real Estate Foundation. They are kind of the first group of its kind in Colorado Springs who are proposing to use $5 million of AHIF 23 capital to make construction loans and mini perm style loans to affordable housing developers in the Colorado Springs and Pikes Peak region. So I'm happy to introduce Sam Clark from the Pikes Peak Real Estate Foundation. Sam?
Thank you, Andrew. As Andrew said, my name is Sam Clark. I'm with the Pikes Peak Real Estate Foundation. And really, we were started because our local philanthropists were looking at the housing market in Colorado Springs and understanding that we didn't have a lot of great ways for philanthropists to invest in affordable housing in ways that they understood. So we were asked to start a low interest loan fund to help new projects get off the ground. I think our market and our climate has become much more attractive to chaff investment. And I think there's some really good innovative ideas happening in housing in what is one of the fastest appreciating parts of Colorado. And what we are really excited about is this opportunity to work with the Division of Housing of how do we continue to be a resource to get affordable housing dollars into the projects that we are coming to know really well that are coming out in Colorado Springs. And those look like motel conversions, new construction of affordable housing, as well as some rehabilitation projects that we think are going to be in the pipeline over the next 18 months to 2 years. And I think what's unique is the Real Estate Foundation is really comprised of real estate and banking professionals that are in place really to help our sort of public and philanthropic community have a body of expertise that is sort of able to make quick decisions and understand sort of the right access points for getting kind of our community resources into the affordable housing assets that are really going to define our region over the next 30 years. So very grateful for the opportunity to present to this board and certainly welcome any questions you might have about the Real Estate Foundation.
LaDawn? I'd just like to add before questions that you'll see in your write-up that the Pikes Peak Real Estate Foundation is a relatively new nonprofit organization, kind of spun out of the Pikes Peak Community Foundation. But, you know, certainly staff underwrote the organization and the very strong board of directors and real estate professionals that sit on its loan committee. So we are very comfortable with their real estate experience and expertise. They have chosen the guidance line of credit option, which requires that the applicant pay back the loans to the division using proceeds from the loans they make. As a newer startup type entity, we generally require a guarantee from either a corporate foundation or, and I want to add that we didn't put this in the write-up, but we will certainly entertain substitute guarantors that the Real Estate Foundation propose, perhaps from a local bank in El Paso County that certainly has, you know, the financial wherewithal to provide the guarantee and wants to be a great community partner with the Real Estate Foundation. So I'll just add that caveat that, you know, we will ask for a guarantor for the line of credit acceptable to the division.
And that guarantor hasn't been identified yet?
Correct, it has not. There's been one proposed, but the Real Estate Foundation asked that we keep the door open for perhaps a different, you know, partner in the local community, which certainly the division is open to, so long as we are able to take a look and approve that guarantor.
Okay. Ryan.
Yes, thanks, LaDawn, and thanks, Mr. Clark. So a couple of questions, and so please forgive me for the first one because you may have already addressed it. But in terms of the fixed interest rates, if you will, for the you know, the folks that would qualify for these types of eventual loans for home ownership, are we talking about locking them in at, what is it, 6% for, I think, a 30-year fixed mortgage rate? Or is it something that's, as you good folks, you know, use the medium that you've established to lend to prospective homeowners, are they going to be able to lock in at an interest rate that's considerably lower to, you know, hopefully to facilitate their ability to pay back the mortgage loans? That's the first question.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. You know, our vision is that we're probably not going to be lending directly to homeowners. Really, and there's a couple of good reasons for that. We've got a really good county turnkey system that I think sits in that space. And, not sure I'm really qualified to be a mortgage underwriter for specific homeowners. What I think we can do is really work well with the city and county and make sure that we're fitting well within the resources they have to help get projects done. They're going to be capped at like a 3% interest rate for these investments. So what that does is, one, you get that long-term affordability as part of the agreement with this really attractive capital. But two, you allow them to sort of reduce their cost of capital to keep those projects affordable for a long time. So that's the space I think we see ourselves in El Paso and Teller County.
No, thanks for clarifying that for me. So then I guess the second follow-on question, looking at, the slide and listening to your proposal. So the rural areas, let's just see specifically in El Paso County, are you good folks thinking about expanding out past Highway 94 and Schriever Space Force Base, or even some of the northeastern parts of El Paso County? Where are you looking at, I guess, with, expanding these developmental projects for when you say rural areas?
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think that where I see the ripest opportunity in rural areas is actually in Teller County. And I think that's because you have a little bit more density to justify some of the multi-family development. And I think that those communities are changing pretty quickly, especially if you look at like Cripple Creek. There's a lot of investment happening there. And your two big employers are a casino and a mine. And one can pay really well and one doesn't, but that's your workforce. We do have the county economic development person on our board, and she's been a really great resource for looking at like what's happening in Rama, what's happening in all those places. But I haven't seen as many projects popping up from those communities that I think we could support. And that's been a big piece of discipline for us, is realizing, we're not going to generate the project. We're really there to help make sure that it can stay affordable for a long time and get done.
So, not to, and so I understand the bottoms up approach in terms of the El Paso County helping to, I guess with Teller also, helping to kind of steer where the projects will be, started. But I mean, as you go through Teller County, and I get it, there's a great level of variance once you get past the main strip.
Yeah.
With that probably the most churched up Walmart in the world, right there between dividing that main strip. So I get it. Yeah. So I have a great level of appreciation when you talk about low density in terms of land mass or land area, but still a high demand. But then I think you can reciprocate that framework or that paradigm and look at those parts of El Paso County that I just kind of subtly foot stomped, because it's almost like it's very austere. I'll leave it at that. And so I think that there's a and when I'm part of what I see as my platform here for advocacy is for those folks who may not necessarily have as much agency to get their demands inside the El Paso County, whether it's the county building off of Garden of the Gods or downtown where the housing folks are at. And so I would ask for you if you could please take back to the Real Estate Foundation that you represent to at least have them or kind of create a sense of more of a panoramic viewpoint, I would say, instead of just focusing on what I would, and I'm not saying Teller County is low-hanging fruit at all. I'm not. But I think that there's just at least from my time beating the streets in El Paso County, like Michael McDonald and Doobie Brothers taking it to the streets, I've seen some of that austerity out there in the rural, and I'm using air quotation marks because I think there are varying degrees of rural, and I don't think I would be doing the right thing by those residents out there understanding that there's an urgency of need as well. They just may not necessarily have the level of agency to advocate on their behalf. So that's all I have, but thank you for your presentation.
I really appreciate you making the point. It's one well taken. But yeah, I sincerely, thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Sam?
Thanks a lot, Don. Thank you, Mr. Clark, for the presentation. A couple of questions. Since the foundation is relatively new, have you all given any consideration to the kind of like the parceling of the capital between home ownership and rental?
I think that we've seen in our early bandwidth where we've had really good early success in the rental component. And we have, sort of worked with STEFCA a little bit, and we've got a Habitat for Humanity that I think is really really capable. We've worked with them, specifically our Habitat, on some projects, not as a lender, but facilitating gifts of property for them to go and develop those properties. I just talked with our Habitat leader, Chris Lewis, today, and was like, hey, I've got this presentation today, and depending on how it goes, you and I should talk about what opportunities exist for Habitat. I know you guys have done some work with the sort of statewide board for AHIF dollars as well, but what our goal really is how do we help ensure that there's long-term affordability and that we're putting money in places where we're kind of making a difference and getting some projects done, while also being good fiduciaries of the risk that comes with those new projects.
Mm-hmm. Great. And do you see yourselves partnering with other organizations like the Colorado Springs Housing Authority and maybe IDF?
Yeah, so for the Housing Authority, the city, the county, I don't know if it's clear the application, but Steve Posey from the city and Crystal Latier from the county would be on our committee to really help us guide where we put these investments. And then I think your point on IDF is well taken. Colorado Springs does not have a local CDFI. And I do think that is, when we think about the bigger infrastructure long-term that we want to perpetuate in this community, it's making sure that we have organizations that understand how to use CDFIs to get their projects done, but then also, finding ways to sort of build and retain those assets dedicated to El Paso and other counties. I think it's, IDF does really great work, but to Ryan's point, we got to do a better job of beating the street and getting up over there, and also making sure we've got someone here that's doing the same for us.
All right. Thanks so much.
If I may piggyback on Sam's question, you mentioned Steve Posey. I had a great conversation with him. It feels like maybe about 90 days ago, but it feels like 5 years ago. That's the way time's going. And so he mentioned part of the problem, or just the phenomenon, if you will, with El Paso County is the fact it has to do with Tabor funds. And so, and he explained it in a way where it made it low-hanging fruit for me. He's like, hey, the Tabor program is set up where in El Paso County, they get more funds back. And so the demand signal for housing up through the pipeline is less. Does that make sense to you? Or maybe I'm I bet you and I had the same conversation with Steve. I had it about a week ago. And here's kind of what he relayed to me. He was really encouraging of us to apply for these funds, but Colorado Springs is really careful about watching where resources like this will count against their Tabor count. Mm-hmm. So I think if you're looking at them as a municipality looking for Prop 123 dollars, or for this program, I think they're very careful about taking on these projects because they don't want to count against their Tabor count. But it is a community that, well, one is very tax averse, but then two, there's just a lot of activity happening here that wasn't happening 10 and 15 years ago, especially around community development and housing space. And so that infrastructure is having to grow up around Steve while he's trying to field all those opportunities. I think this is a good example of, we're a newer organization.
but we're starting to fill that capacity. And, my hope is that in 10 years, we're just a plug and play partner for the city and division of housing down the road, because we've built up the capacity to sort of integrate with the way you work, and understand where we play in relation to the city. To Samuel's point, we don't have a CDFI. We didn't have a real estate foundation really 4 years ago. And so this is a really good signal that Colorado Springs and El Paso County and Woodland Park and Teller County are starting to build the infrastructure and the capacity to really accelerate the growth of affordable housing in this region.
Awesome.
Fantastic. I think we need to move on to our next project.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you all.
El Paso County is dominating this meeting today, apparently.
Only first time in 2.5.
Yeah, apologies.
Okay, so we are moving on to Eagle County Housing and Development Authority. Also, Andrew is going to introduce this one.
Thanks, LaDawn. So this is an application for AHIP 23 funds from the Eagle County Housing and Development Authority to support a new-ish program of theirs called the Aid for ADUs. It's a program that ECHDA has had around for a year and a half or so, and fairly innovative in that it provides low-interest loans to homeowners to build ADUs on their property, so long as they can be rented to LMI residents and part of the workforce of Eagle County. So very much in the spirit of kind of a pilot and innovative type program that the division would like to support. We're excited about this application, and I'm happy to introduce Kim Bell-Williams from Eagle County Housing and Development Authority to tell you all a little more.
Hi, everybody. How are you? Thank you for having us. Yes, we have addressed some creative housing needs in Eagle County. This one was about potential space that was available but not yet finished. In July of 2021, we launched the Aid for ADU loan program, and we have had it wildly accepted by the community. We've had 13 loans already go out. We've had almost two paid back. Two is coming by by the end of this month. And we are looking to partner to expand this program, to provide more funds, and happy to take any questions. I don't want to take up all of your time, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Accessory dwelling units, mother-in-laws, lock-offs, whatever it may be. And that's what we're trying to get more of. Units that are available today that can be pretty quickly turned around, not necessarily new construction, but places where, at least in our market, we can pull it out of the second homeowner or empty vacant market and make it available for locals. So happy to answer any questions.
I have a quick question. There's a requirement in there, right, that they have to rent it to locals or long-term rentals, and they can't do an Airbnb? Just clarifying that.
Yes, thank you. Absolutely, yes. Short-term rental is kind of one of our biggest challenges. So yes, it has to be what we call an eligible household, which is someone who lives and works in Eagle County. And then typically, the deed of trust and the promissory note would have a requirement that it cannot be short-term rented.
Okay. Perfect. Any other questions? Sam.
Thank you, LaDawn. Kim, thanks for the presentation. I believe I read in the write-up that you anticipate the loans being repaid on the average in about 7 years. Is that correct?
Yes, it is obviously a guess, but we are trying to incentivize the repayment so that the fund will revolve by providing that low interest rate for the first couple years. And we have seen that work with our existing down payment assistance program. So if you get a down payment assistance loan with our program today, which has been around since 1998, then you can pay that back with principal only after 24 months. And that is incentivized, I would say, about a quarter of our borrowers to pay that money back. And obviously, when we get the money back quicker, we can send it out to the next homeowner. And so that is the idea of this incentive as well, is that if we can charge no interest for the first couple years, then we'll hopefully incentivize that repayment. We did the math also, if any math people are on this call, that if you charge 100% AMI, that you can repay the loan back before the 3 or 4 year term, depending on what size unit you have.
So what are typical units or loan sizes?
What we've seen already, we've seen a lot of 2 bedrooms and some 1 bedroom units. Many people are finishing basements. We see less like separate ADUs and more of like space within the home that could be finished, adding an exterior door or a kitchen or whatever it may be. So that's what we've seen already coming through the program. But I'm always up for a surprise.
And the loan size, what typically is the loan size that they're taking?
Oh, the loan. We have seen 12 of the 13 in our program right now. It goes up to $100,000. So we've seen 12 of the 13 take the full 100 and then need to get a little bit more cash out of their own pocket. So that's partly a problem of our cost of construction. Right now we're at about $600 a square foot to finish space in Eagle County, which I know is just depressing. So that's why for this proposal, we're looking at a higher loan amount.
And it would seem like the only way they could pay that back is if they're selling the house or refinancing it entirely?
No, actually, we've had folks pay it back with their rental income. So that's how the first participant in the program that paid the loan back was able to save the rent and pay the loan back. So
great. All right. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. Great questions.
And once the loan is paid off, then can they short-term rent it, or does it still stay with the property that they cannot?
So we are proposing that that there will be a minimum term agreed to, and that right now is 15 years of
They don't want someone to
affordability.
pay it off really quickly and then just turn it into a short-term rental. Like we're
We don't
incentivizing
either.
them to pay it off early, but then I don't want to lose that property.
Agreed. Yes. And so that's something we've thought about too. So thank you, LaDawn.
Yes. Nancy.
Thank you. When you were talking about refinishing the basement, how are you going to check that people are actually doing what they say they're going to do? What stops me from finishing my basement and then having my son or a good friend move in for $50 a month?
Great question, Nancy. So we inspect at the time of initial application, and then when they're ready to go, the plans are in, the permits are pulled, the money goes out the door. They have a certain amount of time to finish the construction. And then at the end of the construction period, they reach back out to us and we put our eyes on the finished product. We actually have been taking videos and kind of just keeping a video record of the inventory that's been coming across. And you know what? You can definitely rent it out to your son if he is an eligible household. So, and then we have a max on the rental rate, but we, he would have to have a job and be below 100% AMI. So,
but are you going to check?
Absolutely, yes.
You're gonna
So
look at my lease or something like that?
yes, so we get a copy of the leases. We do a biannual check-in. So we check in twice a year with the tenants. And they have to prove their employment and their residency and the whole 9 yards. So yeah, we are providing that biannual check-in with the tenant, but really the deed of trust and the promissory note is with the homeowner, who may or may not live in the house.
Right.
They may not live in the house. So yeah, we are doing a double check there with the person living there and the person who owns it, who got the loan.
And then
Great.
if I violate the terms of the contract, I have to pay the money back.
Yes, well, you're going to have to pay the money back no matter what, just so you know.
True.
And
No,
and yes,
it's a loan, but still,
yes,
it's
yes,
somehow
we could call the
makes it different. If
we
it's
could
like-
call the loan due. We have done that, unfortunately, with our we have done a judicial foreclosure with some of our down payment assistance programs, and that's typically, you know, we take the documents to the judge and they make a decision. We don't, let's hope I don't ever have to do that, right? But the idea is having a really good relationship with the homeowner as well as the tenant, so we can make sure they're in compliance during the term of the agreement.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I don't know. There's something about it, an ADU that just got my mind to going that way. So
It's a good question. Yeah. Thank you.
Andrew, did you want to clarify something before we go to
Yeah.
Director Garcia?
Certainly, I'll just clarify in response to your question and perhaps Nancy's as well. Long-term affordability is, you know, absolutely one of the program requirements. So we will be working with Eagle County Housing Development to review their long-term affordability requirements and kind of contract documents so that we can make sure that everything conforms. But we also understand that this is very unique and kind of uncharted territory. So look forward to working together on this to see if this idea and process, you know, works for this program and perhaps for others in the future.
I think it's a fantastic idea. Director Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kim, hi, Rick Garcia, Executive Director of DOLA. Hey,
Hello.
created program. Tell me, is the entire area that this program is going to be targeted to, is it ADUs use by right? Or do these individual property owners have to pursue zoning changes?
Great question, Director Garcia. Thank you for asking that. Every community within Eagle County is different. So there are some communities that automatically have the ability to have an ADU, and there are others that we will have to work with closely to change their PUD or their HOA documents. So it is not a solution that, like, today I wave my magic wand and it applies to all 30,000 residences in Eagle County. We do have to do some work with some communities so that they can update their governing documents. So.
Okay. So is there any prospect that the leadership of the county, and I assume this would also include municipalities within Eagle County, you know, would consider adopting use by rights for ADUs throughout the entire area?
We have talked about that for decades, and I don't have an easy answer. And I think part of the problem is that it's like one of those fancy layered cakes, is that it's the county, it's the city, it's the HOA, it's the neighborhood HOA. There's just a lot of layers where there is prohibition of some of those units. And so we haven't gotten to a place where we can wave a magic wand and fix that, but I will tell you it's something we talk about often. And there are communities who are on board and waiting in line for us to help work through how we can potentially get that to a place where we have addressed the issues that come with ADUs, like parking and extra water meters and trash and all the kind of things that come along with saying you have an official second unit, which those are our current challenges. So those are things we've been thinking about and working towards for years, but we don't have effective solutions today.
All right, I appreciate the complexity, but it would seem to me that maybe the communities that are willing to adopt or have already adopted a use by right would be the ones first in line to benefit from these funds. Thank you.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you. Great question.
Any other questions on this project? Okay, thanks, Kim.
Yeah.
Moving on, we have Urban Land Conservancy, also being introduced by Andrew Paredes.
Thanks, LaDawn. Yes, the last of the AHIV 23 applications being recommended today is from Urban Land Conservancy. And we are recommending funding of $5 million for a new and innovative program of theirs, by which they will use funds from this loan fund to purchase properties and then long-term ground lease them back to the ultimate LIHTC developers, using the low interest cost from the AHIV funds to be able to help some developers monetize the value of the land up front to help with construction costs and get repaid over time, and hopefully lessen the cost burden and the interest burden on the project. So I'd like to introduce Brad Dodson, the CFO of Urban Land Conservancy.
Thank you, Andrew. Good afternoon, everyone. Brad Dodson, Urban Land Conservancy. And for those of you who may not be familiar with ULC, for the last 20 years, we have worked to preserve affordable real estate throughout Colorado by keeping land, holding land in a 99-year ground lease. And really, it's 198 years because it's an automatically renewable 99-year ground lease. And the impetus for this was we were approached by several different affordable housing developers who had been awarded tax credits, but due to increasing construction costs, rising interest rates, found themselves with a project gap. And because their land, the cost of acquiring their land does not factor into the project basis, they said, hey, ULC, can we leverage that value by selling that land to you and then leasing it back? And we really like this idea from our perspective because our typical process is that we would be the first one out the door to acquire land.
Am I the only one who lost sound?
Nope, I lost it too.
Okay. Brad, we seem to have lost you.
It looks like Brad is frozen, unfortunately.
He does look frozen.
He
Oh, and now
just
he's
dropped
gone.
out. Hopefully he'll be back in a moment.
Maybe he'll come back. Sam,
Thank you,
are you
LaDawn.
going to sing and dance and entertain us while we wait?
Yeah, I was going to tell a joke or two, but
Perfect.
no, I don't have any jokes I can actually tell with this audience.
I'm so sorry. I'm back. Apparently, the Wi-Fi went out just as I was in the middle of presenting, so I am so sorry for that. Can everyone hear me still?
We can.
Yes. Okay. Sorry so much. Anyway, just to wrap up, yes, that folks have been approaching us. How do we leverage the value of their land? This is cheaper than going out and getting mezzanine level debt. And so for us, this is a way we can infuse capital and to ensure that the public investment in these properties creates affordability in perpetuity. And so this is all of these projects will be held in a renewable 99-year ground lease to ensure permanent affordable housing for these properties. Happy to answer any questions that anyone on the board has.
Thanks, Brad. Sam.
Thank you, LaDawn. I'm not sure if this is for Andrew or Brad, but my question is, explain to me how this is a more efficient way to utilize the money that the division has rather than loaning it directly to a developer. Can you help me understand that?
Yep. Happy to, Sam. The idea around these AHIVs is for the division to work with third parties or partner CDFI type organizations who will do the direct to customer, so the direct to developer underwriting and lending on our behalf, as opposed to, in this case, a $5 million award. If we at the division were to take 5 $1 million applications, that would take 5 times application, underwriting, et cetera, work on behalf of the state, as well as our contracting process. We're trying to, with these AHIF funds, take some of our capital and partner with outside organizations to do the direct to consumer or customer application, underwriting, and documenting, contracting, and draw funding type requests. So this isn't to say we're moving all the way in one direction or another, but both the AHIF 1.0 and the AHIF 23 are in the spirit of trying to expand our base of funding outlets.
Right. And the reason for my question is because, oftentimes we'll see CDFIs loan in a number of different ways, for home ownership, for acquisition, for rehab. What Brad has kind of laid out in the model is a very kind of like typical 9% deals. Local developer comes to him, and that would normally go to the Division of Housing as part of their request to take down the land and to build the project. But what I'm hearing you say, Andrew, is it's the efficiency of using an organization like the Urban Land Conservancy to actually help get the money out the door. Is that right? Is that how I should interpret it?
Yeah, you are correct, as well as trying to drive the cost down of the capital that might be going into that typical 9% deal if they didn't come to the division for all of this financing. Right? We still anticipate using some of our traditional gap financing tools with some of these developments, as we do now. And there are developments that come to us currently that have gotten outside equity or have done kind of a land purchase lease back scenario to monetize that land up front at a higher cost of capital. We are requiring that ULC lend out at no more than 3% or set that long-term lease rate at no more than 3%. Again, trying to use this capital, at its lowest possible cost. So yes, Sam, I'd say you are correct. And I think there's an additional benefit with the low cost of this capital.
Right. But you can make the capital available at the same rate to Brad that you're making it available to
that
XYZ developer as well, right?
That is correct. And that's where the kind of economies of scale of underwriting, and
right.
application contracting come into play.
All right. I'm just trying to, understand. Thank you so much, but I appreciate it.
Any other questions? Okay. Do we have anyone with any conflicts before we call for votes? Anyone need to abstain? Doesn't look that way. So we'll just vote on all of these as a package. Do I have a motion to vote for these projects?
So moved.
Is that Nancy?
Yes.
And a second.
I have Monique, second.
Monique is seconding. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, congratulations, everyone.
Thank you
Good
all.
projects.
And we will chat in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
adjourned.
Bye-bye.